I'm your host, Tater Tom, and I make bourbon whiskey videos. Today we are going to talk about distillation. So when most people think about making whiskey, they think about mashing in. The process of combining grain and water and yeast and letting that sit and ferment. But really, the magic of whiskey starts with distillation. That's where we go from fermented grain mash to the spirit that goes into your glass. Now, distillation is a science, but it's also an art. You can control certain variables like the type of still you use, how many times you run the product, and that will change the outcome. But there's also a lot of things that you can't control, like the type of corn you use or the weather or just random chance. All of those things combined together in a kind of alchemy create something new, something special. Something that we call craft. At its most basic, distillation is just boiling the beer, right? We heat it up and that turns it into vapor. And then we collect that vapor and we condense it back into a liquid. Now we call that white dog or sometimes low wines. If you were to try this at home, you would just need a few things, some glass jars, some pots, and a stove. Oh, by the way, distillation of spirits is not legal in the United States and many other countries around the world. So I would highly suggest you research the laws in your area before trying this at home. Okay, back to the story. But if you wanted to scale it up, you would need something more substantial like these copper pot stills. These are made by a company. They're based out of Germany. This is a really classic style of still. It has two chambers. The first one is the wash still, and that is where we put the beer, and then we heat it up and turn it into vapor. Then that vapor goes over here into the second chamber called the spirit still, and we collect it there. This is all happening at a temperature of about 173 degrees. Now, if we were to go any higher than that, we would start getting into the realm of vodka. So what you're looking at here is basically the difference between whiskey and vodka. Here on the left is whiskey. On the right is vodka. If you distill a mash made from fruit, you call that brandy. Anyway, after the first distillation, we end up with this cloudy white dog or low wines. And then we have to run it through a second time. This is where we get the heart of the whiskey. After the second distillation, we end up with a clear, almost water-like substance. If you were to taste it, it would be very harsh and hot, and you definitely could not drink it straight. Well, most people cannot drink this high-proof spirit straight, but I know many of you bourbon legends like to brag that you can. That's okay. That is what makes you legends, right? Anyway, that's why we add water back in. By diluting it, we open up the flavors and we make it more enjoyable. We also age it in new charred oak barrels. That adds another layer of flavor. It gives us vanilla and caramel and spice, all of those wonderful things that we associate with bourbon. But remember, this is just the basic overview of distillation. There's a lot more that goes into it, but a little more researching, and you can find out the entire process, I am sure. Anyway, I hope you have a great day and shine on.